All right, it's been a readjustment for players, organizations, and fans alike as the new collective bargaining agreement in the NBA has. It's weird. I look at it as slowing. You are made a very good point on, like, there's still action happening. It's just in a different way, and it's just how you want to frame the way that the NBA is operating right now. But as it pertains to the hometown team, the Portland Trailblazers, like, they made the draft day move where they traded the 14th pick, a future, and Malcolm Brogdon for Denny Advia of the Washington Wizards. And they got him, and that's kind of been the biggest move, along with drafting, Donovan Clingan.
Very large man.
Yeah. And sitting there, and they got younger and upgraded at a position of need at that, that swing forward position. But now, with where Portland is at, how has all of this kind of impacted Portland in their standing? And everybody wants you to be aggressive. And we knew Portland never has been a big swinger in free agency. With the roster that they had and the number of spots available, we knew they weren't going to be active in free agency, but there was the ability to move off of some veterans. There was a lot of rumors and bubbling around, basically anybody on the roster that's over the age of 25.
Basically, yeah.
That, hey, open for business right now.
And there still is. And that's the thing, is like, we're July 3rd. The moratorium doesn't end until the 6th, and usually you don't typically, I'm cursing this, you don't typically see business done on July 4th. It's kind of seen as like uncouth around the NBA. Like, don't make me work on the 4th.
Unless it is Kevin Durant in the Hamptons with the Warriors.
Yeah, where they were there together. So that's what I'm saying. Most of the time, everybody kind of respects the 4th as like, like, this is our family day. Like, let's everybody chill. And then we'll come back on the 5th. Or later on that night, you start making calls going in the next day. But
drunken phone calls,
there you go, babe. Did you see the clip from Hard Knocks yet? On the sideline, how the Brian Burns deal? We got to talk about that.
We got that. We got the audio of that.
That's super interesting because I think people think that it's like a very detailed process for transactions, and it's like, no, that's kind of how it goes.
These are how these things work.
Yeah, it's built, and that's what we talk about relationships all the time.
All right, that might be why Danny Ainge is so effective. He's Mormon. He doesn't drink.
There you go.
He's sitting there, and he's like,
he's stone cold sober all the time.
He gets them all sloshed up, and he's like, hey, how about those first? I'll tell you.
Daryl Morey throws the ping pong parties, and there you go. That's what happens. But no, I still think there's time for action. I would be surprised if Malcolm Brogdon was the only move as far as the veterans go. I could be wrong, but I feel like there's going to be at least one more. Like, whether or not it's Jerami, whether or not it's Time Lord, whether or not it's Anthony, like, I think there's going to be
DeAndre
one
Ayton,
more.
for goodness sakes. I mean,
like, they've explored a lot of different things. So, as it pertains to the Jerami Grant stuff, I heard back again, it's a staring contest. The price has been set, and apparently the price is set at both the Lakers' first-round picks. And things can change. There's always that qualifier, whether it's the market or whether it's some other dynamic. Jeremy saying he really wants to go there, or Clutch going the other way and doing a favor that we talked about yesterday for the Trailblazers for goodness to Clutch, as it were. But I don't think that deal is going to get done unless Portland gets both of the Lakers' first-round picks.
It shouldn't get done.
So, and I
get what you want.
Yeah, and honestly, look, Joe Cronin dealt with months of this with significantly more pressure on a player that demanded a trade publicly. Yeah. I don't think that he's in any kind of hurry to be like, I better make sure I appease the Lakers.
Yeah. Do we think that any of these key dates that are coming up are at play? July 6th, Anthony Simons is up for an extension. July 13th, Jabari Walker up for an extension. July 18th, DeAndre Ayton up for extension. July 30th, Robert Williams up for an extension. In kind of how we've seen some of these deals move and operate, we've seen sign and trades happen, guys get extensions, and then they move on. Is that a hang up in potentially any of this movement happening?
I don't think so. I don't believe there's been any discussions either on Anthony Simon's side or the Blazers side about a potential extension there. Even though this is when you maybe start having them is 2 years out because that's when you're actually eligible. The interesting thing about Jabari's is even though he is technically eligible, his guarantee date isn't until July 20th because he didn't actually sign his full contract until the 20th.
So he's up for an extension on the 13th. His contract this year does not become guaranteed
until the 20th.
Until the 20th.
Super, super weird. So you won't see any movement in there. And honestly, I think they'll probably let him reach and kind of see what happens with him before they do anything. And I believe they'd have early birds because he's got 3 years instead of 4. It's a second round pick with some arenas rule stuff in there as well. But I don't think the Blazers are looking at any potential extensions right now, particularly the higher valued roster guys like Ant, Time Lord, or Da. So Da, if he is going to be a part of their future, it's not going to be at $35 million a year. It's going to be at a significantly less scaling. Like that's the reality of that. Whether it's here or somewhere else, that's not happening. Time Lord, you just need to see play basketball. And that's another funny thing I've heard from people that the Lakers have been asking to see Time Lord included in that deal with Grant. It's like, why would they sell him at his lowest point to the Lakers just to help you out? It's like, no, that doesn't.
No, we don't like you.
No,
no.
And in order to do that, the Blazers would have to take back more bad money.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean but look, this is where the Blazers are right now. Sad.
I mean, this is the waiting game you play to try to capitalize on your assets as much as you can. And for everybody's like, well, if they don't move Jerami now, his value's going to go down. I heard that when he signed the contract, and now his value's up. And I heard that the trade deadline, if they didn't move in the deadline, his value was going to go down. It's like multiple teams are still calling on Jerami Grant. That's where it is. My personal belief is if it doesn't get done at the summertime, they'll get to the trade deadline, and there will be 1 or 2, maybe 3 teams that come calling on Jerami Grant, much the same way the Dallas Mavericks did, where they look at I think the NBA landscape is changing radically. I don't think we're going to see repeat champions. I don't think we're going to see back-to-backs. I don't think we're going to see dynasties. I think this CBA is going to be very prohibitive in that regard. And so when you have an opportunity to make a run and you're going to look at a player like a Jerami Grant and go, that guy could help us win a title. He could be our 3rd guy. He could be our 4th guy. If we get him and we just say, screw it, it's worth it for us. Let's go down that pipe.
What about any of those guys that I mentioned? And because of like a sign-in trade, if you're not eligible for that extension until those dates, then you can be eligible for that extension and then get dealt. Do you see that happening with any of them?
No, I don't think any of those guys are going to get extended this cycle right now.
I'm talking for their future team and the security that the future team would have because they become extension eligible.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the deal is you're going to want to get them at a lower number at some point in time, and I think that's kind of the idea. Like, I remember when Ant signed his deal, I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. Emmanuel Quickley is like, 7 months younger than Anthony Simons, and he's making $11 million more a year. So you tell me. Like, it was like, oh my God, IQ, this is a great deal, Raptors. And I'm like,
yeah.
He got $11 million more a year, guys. Like, what are we doing here? Yeah. If that's such a great deal and you've got a guy who's a better shooter behind him, like...
Well, one guy played in New York City and has
the prestige, baby.
And had his value propped up significantly. Yeah, and there's your difference right there.
It's the same thing with RJ Barrett. The reason why they mattered more to the Raptors is the Canadian second son. No, seriously, like if you go up there, like his father, Rowan, runs the Team Canada. Like he's royalty basically.